Hello, Dena.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Eric.
Hey,
How are
Mike.
you?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Hi,
That's
PPG.
great.
Welcome.
All right. Give me just a moment, and we'll start. I'll play a song, but this is just the background, so let me know if it's too loud, Dena Joe. I'm actually on scene right now at the Mahaffey Theater and the Dolly Museum downtown.
Oh,
Yeah. Downtown St. Pete. Starting in a few minutes. What time do you have to head out, Dena?
about like 3:50.
Okay.
Yeah, around 3:50.
Boundaries and your spouse. Ooh boy,
Yeah.
this was triple highlighted from years ago. I remember this one.
Yeah, me too.
Just a mic check. I got like a bay. I have the
Ooh.
bay blowing at me right now.
Hi.
So it sounds all right. There's no wind.
No, I think you sound good.
Awesome. Hey Eric,
Uh-huh.
what do you call big, large pile kittens?
I know this one. It's the 𝕄𝕚𝕜𝕒𝕡𝕒𝕒.
Hey, who told you that one, man?
You did.
Oh yeah.
You have.
Man.
We all follow the same tracks, Mike. Now, if you would have asked me that, I would have forgotten it. My brain doesn't.
Dena,
Smart as.
why did the
Smart as
lion club?
Eric's.
Why did the lion club cross the road?
To eat the kitties on the mountain. I don't know. Oh.
To get to his other pride.
Okay. Hi, PVG. Welcome.
All right, we're going to start out with a song here. Then we will begin. Boundaries.
Okay.
Delayed by one day, episode 9. Boundary conflicts. Boundaries and your spouses.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We were blinded, we were broken, lost without a guide. You came and rescued, you made us worthy, gave purpose to our lives. We can hear your heart now. We can feel it beating, God of the nations. We will pray, we will go. Imaginations turning to
Woody Bush. Hey, Tuddles. Hey, Jess.
For every lonely heart, for every broken dream, until they all come home. God, pour your spirit out. God, let your fire fall down until they all come home. For every lonely heart, for every broken dream, until they all come home. God, pour your spirit out. God, let your fire fall down until they all come home. We will pray. We will go. Imaginations turning to Jesus. Turning to Jesus.
Man, can that guy sing?
Who is that?
That is Imaginations by Futures. F-U-R-T-E-R-S. Futures.
Nice. Hi, Billy Gracie Lady and Mom. Nice to have you both with us today.
Gives me goosebumps every single time.
Hi, Wednesday. Jesus, look at that. Off to work. Bye, Wednesday. Have a good day at work.
Yeah, have a good day, Wednesday. It's Hump Day, and this is Boundaries, Episode 9. This is about
Now you can kind of hear the wind
boundaries.
a little bit, but just so you know when you
Yeah.
listen to it later.
Also, ladies and gentlemen, I am live here at the Dolly Museum and the Mahaffey Theater, which is Duke Energy Center, downtown St. Pete. So if there's a little bit of wind buffer, that's
That's
not
okay.
me
You sound
breathing
better
into the
now. You sound louder, so you can hear it over it.
Muy perfecto.
Good.
Let me do one adjustment. How's that for the sound?
Yes,
Better?
yes, that's better.
Sounds a little bit better, yes.
We can hear you better. Yeah,
Loud and clear.
yeah.
All right, Boundaries, Episode 9. All right, let's start off. How's Dena and how is Eric?
I'm good, thank you.
Terrible?
Yeah, my day is good for the most part, yes.
Good.
Even though we're
All right,
one day
well,
late, but we're here.
Right? Hey, better late than never.
There you go.
If there were ever a relationship where boundaries could get confused, it's marriage, whereby design husband and wife become one flesh. Ephesians 5:31. Boundaries foster separateness. Marriage has one of its goals, the giving up of separateness and becoming, instead of two, one. What a potential state of confusion, especially for someone who does not have clear boundaries to begin with. More marriages fail because of poor boundaries than for any other reason. This chapter will apply the laws of boundaries as well as its myths to the marital relationship. This one was deep. This one I had to really study when I first heard it. This is titled, this little paragraph, is this yours, mine, or ours? A marriage mirrors the relationship that Christ has with his bride, the church. Christ has some things that only he can do. The church has some things that only it can do. And they have some things they do together. Only Christ could die. Only the church can represent him on earth in his absence and obey his commands. And together, they work on many things, such as saving the lost. Similarly, um, in a marriage, some duties one spouse does, some the other does, and some they do together. When the two become one on their wedding day, spouses do not lose their individual identities. Each participants in the relationship and each has his or her own life. No one would have a problem deciding who wears the dress and who wears the tie. It's a little trickier to decide who balances the checkbook and who mows the lawn. But these duties can be the checkbook and who mows the lawn. Excuse me, I read that line twice. But these duties can be worked out according to the spouse's individual abilities and interest. Where boundaries can get confusing is in the elements of personhood, the elements of the soul that each person possesses and can choose to share with someone else. I like that one. The elements of the soul
See, this
that
was
each
hard
person possesses.
for me to understand because my first marriage, like you had your first marriage, I wasn't taught that. I didn't have my own identity. My identity was controlled by him. You know what I mean? We'll get into that a little bit further, I think, in the paragraph. But it's so hard. It was hard for me to read this and say, "Oh my gosh, it's so true," because it should be like that. There's, you do become, as a couple, you become one when you get married. But yeah, Mike has some strength and Dina has some strength, and together we have strengths. You know what I mean? And that was never taught to me. So I found that really interesting. My strengths were taken away.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, my strengths were taken away. It was only his strengths. It was only what we do is what he says is the right thing to do. So it was hard for me to read this. I was like, wow, that's so true. This is how it should be. This is how it should be taught. You shouldn't have to give up yourself, your own identity, and what your strengths are, because that's who God made you to be. You have
And
some
that's
strengths,
you.
and I have some strengths. Yeah.
Right. And together, those strengths combined, where one lacks, the other has.
Exactly.
And you guys both together have, you can't lose that ever. I mean, and if that's in there, then it's
welcome, Stone
it's very difficult, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The problem arises when one trespasses on the other's personhood. When one crosses the line and tries to control the feelings, attitudes, behaviors, choices, and values of the other.
There you go.
These things only... Right? Hold on. Let's say that again. The problem arises when one trespasses on the other personhood.
Hi, Pink Squirrel. Welcome.
When one crosses a line and tries to control the feelings, attitudes, behaviors, choices, and values of the other. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I have a duck next to my ear or something.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
You're fine.
That is really weird. Okay. Never done a live at the Dolly Museum before. This is different. These things only each individual can control. To try to control these things is to violate someone's boundaries, and ultimately it will fail. Our relationship with Christ and any other successful relationship is based on freedom. Any other successful relationship is based on freedom. Let's look at some of the common examples. Dina Joe, it says feelings.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most important...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I thought you meant you were asking me to read, so...
Yeah, Dina, get to read feelings.
Sure. One of the most important elements that promotes intimacy between two people is the ability for each to take responsibility for his or her own feelings. That's a hard one sometimes, being responsible for your own feelings. I'm sad.
That's
It's not
tough.
because of you. It's my own feelings, right? It was so easy to blame it on somebody else. You hurt me. You made my feelings hurt. Yeah. I was
I
counseling
don't
a
own
couple
them.
who. What? I'm sorry?
I don't own my feelings.
Yeah, I know. It's
Basically,
terrible.
yeah.
I was canceling a couple who were having a marital problem because of a husband's drinking. I asked the wife to tell her husband how she felt when he drank. I feel like he doesn't think about what he's doing. I feel like no, you're evaluating his drinking. How do you feel about it? I feel like he doesn't care. No, I said, that is what you think about him. How do you feel, excuse me, when he drinks? She started to cry. I feel alone and afraid. She finally said what she felt. At that point, her husband reached out and put his hand on her arm. I never knew you were afraid, he said. I would have never wanted you to be afraid. Um, and it says this conversation was a real turning point in their relationship. For years, the wife had been nagging her husband about the way he was and about the way he should be. He responded by blaming her and justifying his actions. In spite of hours and hours of talking, they had continued to talk past each other. Neither was taking responsibility for his or her own failings and communicating them. We do not communicate our feelings by saying, I feel that you. We communicate our feelings by saying, I feel sad or hurt or lonely or scared or such. Such vulnerability is the beginning of the intimacy and caring. And then it goes on to say, feelings are also a warning sign telling us that we need to do something. For example, if you're angry at someone for something she did, it is your responsibility to go to her and tell her you are angry and why. If you think that your anger is her problem and that she needs to fix it, you may be waiting for years and your anger may turn into bitterness. If you're angry, even if someone else has sinned against you or hurt you, it is your responsibility to do something about it. This is the lesson Susan needed to learn. When her husband Jim did not come home from work early enough for them to have time together, Susan became angry. Instead of confronting her husband, she would become very quiet for the rest of the evening. Jim
Hmm.
became annoyed with having to pull out of her what was wrong. Eventually, hating her pouting, he left her alone. Not dealing with hurt or anger can kill a relationship. Susan needed to talk to Jim about how she was feeling instead of waiting for him to draw it out of her, even though she felt he had been the one who had hurt her. She needed to take responsibility for her own hurt and anger. Jim and Susan did not solve their problem by her simply expressing her anger to him. She needed to go one more step. She needed to clarify her desires in the conflict. And the next chapter
Yeah.
is desires. Hi, Jill. So yeah, again, something else I was never taught. That your feelings are your feelings. That you're responsible for your feelings.
Yep.
Even if Mike hurt my feelings, if I gonna pout about it, or what am I gonna do? I should go to Mike and say, "Hey, dude, you hurt my feelings." And this is what happened, and this is why, and hopefully we could figure it out. Um, because yeah, you could be waiting for years, like it said, if you don't.
This
Mike probably doesn't
feelings are
know.
also a warning. It's like it says feelings are also a warning signal telling us that we need to do something. We need to do
Yeah.
something.
Uh
If
huh.
you're
Hi,
angry at
Amanda.
someone for something, or if you're angry at something for something she did, it is your responsibility to go
Yeah.
to her and to tell her you are angry and why. You think that your anger is her problem and she needs to fix it, you may wait years. I
Yeah.
like that. That was my favorite part. Waiting
Yeah.
years.
Exactly. Because you know what? Like half the time they say the other person has no clue. They have no clue, and they
No,
might
it's
know that there's something wrong, but they
yeah,
don't. And then they're
grimace
trying to pull it
face.
out of you. Yeah, like he said, they're
Yeah,
trying.
it's like,
Okay, I
what's
gotta
the
pull it out
matter?
of you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's own it and just tell them why.
Instead of playing games, right? Because
Yes,
that's what
games.
Hi, Doss. That's what we're doing. Is playing games
Games
every
are for
day.
kids.
Mm.
We've done playing games. Let's just be outright.
Time to grow up.
Next one
right?
is desires. I know it's tough for some. Desires are another element of personhood that each spouse needs to take responsibility for. Susan was angry because she warned Jim to be, because she wanted Jim to be home. She blamed him for being late. When they came in for counseling, our conversation went like this: Susan, tell me why you get angry with Jim. Because he's late, she replied. That can't be the reason, I said. Don't people make other people angry? Your anger has to come from something inside of
Hi,
you.
Sina. Welcome.
What do you mean? He's the one who comes home late. Well, what if you had, sorry about the accent. Well, what if you had plans to go out with your friends that night? Would you still be angry at him for being late? Well, no, that's different. What's different? You said you were angry because he was late, and he would still be late, yet you wouldn't be angry. Well, in that situation, he wouldn't be doing any. Not exactly. The difference is that you wouldn't be wanting something that he didn't want to give you. Your disappointment, desire, is what hurts you, not his being late. The problem lies in who is responsible for the want. It is your want, not his. You are
Heavy.
responsible for getting it fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
That is a rule of life. We do not get everything we want, and we all must grieve over our disappointments instead of punish others for them. What
That whole
about
paragraph
common respect? What's that?
That paragraph you just read is really good.
How's my accent? What about common respect? Staying at the office is selfish, she said. Well, he wants to work some nights and you want him home. Both of you want something for yourselves. We could say that you are as selfish as he is. The truth is, neither one of you is selfish. You just have conflicting wants. This is what marriage is about: getting conflicting wants worked out.
Mm-hmm.
There was no bad guy in this situation. Both Jim and Susan had needs. Jim needed to work late, and Susan needed him home. Problems arise when we make someone else's responsible. Problems arise when we make someone else responsible for our needs and wants, and when we blame them for our disappointments.
That sentence right there. Mm-hmm.
Which one? Jim needed to work late.
Problems arise when you make someone else responsible for your needs and wants, and when we blame them for our disappointments.
Hello, El Grotto. Yes. Problems arise when we make someone else responsible for our needs and our wants. And when we blame them for our disappointments, it's only you can make you happy.
Yeah, we're responsible.
Those are words by Jess Duck, ladies and gentlemen. Very wise woman. The next title on this paragraph: limits on what I can give. We are finite creatures, and we must give as we decide in our heart to give. That's in 2 Corinthians 2:9-7. Being aware of when we are giving past the love point. Excuse me, that airplane's really loud. Being aware of when we are giving past the love point to the resentment point. Problems arise when we blame someone else for our own lack of limits. Often spouses will do more than they really want to and then resent the other for stopping them from over giving. Bob had his problem, his wife. Nancy wanted the perfect home, including handmade patios, landscaping, and remodeling. She was always coming up with something for him to do around the house. Honey-do list. He was beginning to resent her projects. When he came to see me, I asked him why he was angry. Well, because she wants so much. I can't find any time for myself, he said. What do you mean, can't? Don't you mean won't? No, I can't. She would be angry if I didn't do the work. Well, that's her problem. It's her anger. Yeah, but I have to listen to it. No, you don't. You are choosing to do all of these things for her, and you are choosing to take the tongue lashings that happen if you don't. Anytime you spend doing things for her is a gift from you. If you do not want to give it, you don't have to. Stop blaming her for all of this. Bob didn't like that. He wanted her to stop wanting instead of his learning to say no. Let me say that again. He wanted her to stop wanting instead of his learning to say no.
Yeah.
How much time do you want, how much time do you want to give her each week for home improvement? He thought for a minute. About 4 hours. I could work on things for her and still have a little time left for a hobby. Then tell her you have been thinking about your time and that with all the other things you are doing for the family, you would like to give her 4 hours a week to work around the house. She is free to use that time any way she chooses. But what if she says that 4 hours is not enough? I need to drink my beer. Explain to her that you understand that this may not be enough time to complete all the jobs she wants done, but those are her wants, not yours. Therefore, she is responsible for her own wants. And she is free to be creative in how she gets them done. She could earn some extra money and hire somebody. She could learn to do them herself. She could ask a friend to help, or she could just cut down on her wants. It is important that she learns that you are not going to take responsibility for her wants. You're going to give as you choose, but she is responsible for the rest. Bob saw the logic in my suggestion and decided to talk with Nancy. It was not pretty at first. No one ever said no to Nancy before. Man, no one's ever said no to her, and she did not take it well. Woo, that man was in the doghouse. But over time, Bob took responsibility for his limits instead of wishing that Nancy would not want so much, and his limits took effect. She learned something that she had never learned before. The world does not exist for her. Other people are not extensions of her wants and desires. Other people have wants and needs of their own. We must negotiate a fair and loving. Other people have wants and needs of their own, and we must negotiate a fair and loving relationship and respect each other's limits. The key here is that the other person is not responsible for the other limits. We are.
We are.
Only we know what we can do and want to give, and only we can be responsible for drawing that line. If we do not draw it, we can quickly become resentful.
I wish, I had premarital counseling with my first marriage and was never taught any of this stuff. And I think that this is so important, especially if you're gonna get married and have that relationship together. You know how it's tough. It's not easy. But if we knew these skills of, hey, that other person, just because they're married to me, isn't responsible for my happiness. Only I am responsible for my happiness. Then, maybe there wouldn't be as many divorces. I don't know.
That's just it. It's just like, how can you tell? It's just like Nancy's never been told no before, right? So, I mean, she took it bad, and he kind of knew that was going to happen, but, it didn't end the marriage. it at least reinforced it, I think, in a sense. It showed that he
Yeah.
had a backbone, and I'm sure she probably thought that was hot. Who knows? You know, I mean, it's probably, who knows? But
Yeah, it's hard when one person, or is doing everything and always, because that other person has never been said, no, sorry, honey. you know and when they have to be courageous, like Jess says, and stand up to that person, that they don't want to hurt that person, but they're tired of being stepped all over. It's not fair. Everybody has feelings
it's
and desires.
phone lines are open, y'all, if you feel like calling in. Yeah, it was hard for me. I mean, really, 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 really difficult, especially when I got beat down a lot verbally, and it's just like, was too afraid of losing the relationship or the appearance of, just for my kid ultimately. And
Right.
I just had no boundary lines, and I just
Exactly.
wanted the appearance, and I thought that's what it was supposed to be like. So it was tough.
Yeah, I wish, like I
Didn't know
said,
boundaries.
I wish they taught this stuff before you got married. It would help, I think, so much to be.
If not now, then when? If not when, then this is it.
Yeah.
Limits on what I can give. What time do we got there, Dina Joe, for your D?
No, we're good. You know what? I will
Good.
tell you, and I'm going to mute myself and just do something real quick, and we can finish doing what we need to do.
Copy that.
If you want to keep reading, and I can do that right now.
Sounds good.
How's that?
You got a deal, love. All right, we got limits on what I can give. All right. We are finite creatures and must give as we decide in our heart to give. That's 2 Corinthians. And we already read that. Michael, you're a silly goose. No, I did not. I'm just a dork. Being aware of when we are giving past the love point and resentment point, problems arise. Eric, does any of this sound familiar to you?
It would really depend, because I've never really experienced being in a committed relationship with a significant other.
Well, the next one is titled, Eric, Applying the Laws of Boundaries to Marriage. In Chapter 5, we talked about the 10 laws of boundaries. Let's apply a few of those laws to troubled marital situations. The law of sowing and reaping. Many times, one spouse may be out of control and may not suffer the consequences of this behavior. The husband yells at his wife, and he tries to be more loving. And in fact, the evil yelling produces good things, more loving for him. Or a wife overspends, her husband pays the consequences. He gets a second job to cover the mound of bills. Natural consequences, yes, are needed to resolve these problems. A wife needs to tell her overly critical husband that if he continues to berate her, she will go into another room until he can discuss the problem rationally. Or she could say something like this: I will not talk about this issue with you anymore alone. I will only talk in the presence of a counselor. Or if you start yelling at me again, I will go to Jane's house and spend the night. The husband with the spendthrift wife needs to cancel the credit cards, or tell her she needs to get a second job or to pay the bills. These spouses all need to let the out-of-control spouses suffer the consequences of their actions. A friend of mine decided to let his wife suffer the consequences of her chronic lateness. He had nagged his wife about her tardiness, to no avail. Finally, he realized he could not change her. He could only change his response to her. Tired of suffering the consequences of her behavior, he decided to give them back to her. One night they had plans to go to a banquet, and he did not want to be late. In advance, he told her, sounds like me telling the ex, I mean, she was always late. In advance, he told her that he wanted to be on time, and that if she were not ready by 6 p.m. doing her eyelashes, he would leave without her. She was late, and he left. Did you like how I added that in? When he came home that night, she
Gentle,
screamed.
huh, Mike?
Yeah, those eyelashes, man, they kept falling off and they took forever. And it's just, she looked beautiful the way she was. I kept trying to tell her. How could you leave without me? She said. He let her know that her lateness was her lateness was what caused her to miss the banquet, and that he was sad to have to go alone, but he did not want to miss the dinner. After a few more incidents like this, she knew that her lateness would affect her and not him. And guess what? She changed. These moves are not manipulative, as the other spouse will accuse. They are examples of somebody limiting how they will allow themselves to be treated and exhibiting self-control. The natural consequences are falling into the shoulders of the responsible party.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they would say is, yeah, you're being manipulative. But it's not. If you look at it this way, you're not being manipulative. You're just taking back your own your boundaries. You're setting your limits and you're saying no. This is where I stand. So
how could you leave without me? It's affecting you. Ultimately, you'll find out. She just had to see it, I guess.
Yeah.
Eyelashes. I don't get it.
The
All
law
right,
of responsibility.
That's right. Ooh, wow, the law of power's next. All right, so the law of responsibility. We talked earlier about taking responsibility for ourselves and having responsibility to others. The above examples show that people who set limits exhibit self-control and show responsibility for themselves. They act responsible to their partner by confronting him or her. Setting limits is an act of love in the marriage by binding and limiting the evil. They protect the good. Taking responsibility for someone's anger, pouting, and disappointments by giving in to that person's demands or controlling behavior destroys love in a marriage. Pouting, disappointments, giving in to that person's demands, or trying to control the behavior will destroy love in a marriage. Instead of taking responsibility to them by confronting evil when we see it, this is truly loving our partner and the marriage. The most responsible behavior possible is usually the most difficult. Titled Law of Power. This is interesting. We have looked at our basic inability to change another person. A nagging spouse, in effect, keeps the problem going. Accepting someone as she is, respecting her choice to be that way, and then giving her appropriate consequences is the better path. We do this. When we do this, we execute the power we do have. And when we stop trying to wield the power no one has, contrast these ways of reacting. Before boundaries and after boundaries. You want to read one and I'll go with 2 and 3?
Yeah, you could do that. So number 1 is before boundaries. It says, stop yelling at me. You must be nicer. And then after you've set boundaries, you can continue to yell if you choose, but I will choose not to be in the presence when you act that way. Number 2 is the number 2 before boundaries. You've just got to stop drinking. It's ruining our family. Please listen. You're wrecking our lives. And then after boundaries, you may choose to... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Actually, I'll read after boundaries and you read before. That'd be fun.
Sorry.
All right, good. That's okay. Go with before boundaries again. On number 2.
You just stop drinking. It's ruining our family. Please listen. You're wrecking our lives.
This is after boundaries. You may choose to not deal with your drinking if you want, but I will not continue to expose myself and the children to this chaos. The next time you are drunk, we will go to the Wilsons for the night, and we will tell them why we are there. Your drinking is your choice. what I will put up with is mine. Ooh.
All right. Before boundaries number 3. Oh God. You are a pervert to look at pornography. That's so degrading. What kind of sick person are you anyway? Not too old, man.
After boundaries. This is after the boundaries. I will not choose to share you sexually with naked women in magazines. It's up to you. I will only sleep with someone who is interested in me. Make up your mind and choose. These are all examples of taking power over what you do have power over, yourself, and giving up trying to control and have power over somebody else. Next one is titled The Law of Evaluation. When you confront your husband or wife and begin to set boundaries, your partner may be hurt. In evaluating the pain that your boundary setting causes your spouse, remember that love limits go together. When you set boundaries, be loving, responsible to the person in pain. Spouses who are wise and loving will accept boundaries and act responsibly towards them. Spouses who are controlling and self-centered will react angrily. Remember that a boundary always deals with yourself. Let me say that again. Remember that a boundary always deals with yourself, not the other person. You are not demanding that your spouse do something, even respect your boundaries. You are setting boundaries to say what you will do or will not do. Only these kinds of boundaries are enforceable. These boundaries are enforceable, for you do not have control over yourself. Do not confuse boundaries with a new way to control a spouse. It is the opposite. It is giving up control and beginning to love. You are giving up trying to control your spouse and allowing him to take responsibility for his own behavior. What? The old man, the good, the bad, the ugly. Welcome to the panel, my good sir.
Hello, I forgot you were an hour ahead of me.
5 p.m. Eastern. Nope. Wait a minute. 5:15 Eastern. Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
That would be 4:15 Central Time.
Yep.
That's affirmative. All right. We are on boundary conflicts, boundaries, and your spouse. This one's titled The Law of Exposure. In a marriage, as in any other relationship, the need for revealing your boundaries is important. Passive boundaries such as withdrawal, triangulation, pouting, affairs, and passive-aggressive behavior are extremely destructive to a relationship. Passive ways of showing people that they do not have control over you never lead to intimacy. Let me say that one again. Passive ways of showing people that they do not have control over you never lead to intimacy. Take that to the bank. They never educate the other on who you really are. They only estrange. Boundaries need to be communicated first verbally and then with actions. They need to be clear and unapologetic. Remember the types of boundaries we listed earlier: skin, words, truth, physical space, time, emotional distance, other people, consequences. All of these boundaries need to be respected and revealed at different times in a marriage. For instance, skin. Each spouse needs to respect the other's physical body boundaries. Physical boundary violations can range from hurtful displays of affection or to physical abuse. The Bible says that the husband and his wife have authority over each other's body. 1 Corinthians 7, 4-6. This is mutual authority given freely. One should always remember Jesus' principle: treat others as you would want to be treated. That is long, true, and tested. Mm-hmm. Your words need to be clear and spoken in love. Comfort your spouse directly. Say no. Don't use passive resistance. Don't pout or withdraw. Say things like, I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't want to. I don't want to. Truth. Paul says each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully. That's in Ephesians 4:25. Honest communication is always best. Ain't that the truth? This includes telling the other person when he is not aware of excuse me. Honest communication is always best. This includes telling the other person when he is not aware that he is violating one of God's standards. You also need to own the truth about your feelings and hurts and communicate those feelings directly to your spouse with love.
Love.
Physical space. Love. Can you believe that? There's a song. Luke 6. Thank you, the good. Physical space. When you need time away, tell your spouse. Sometimes you need space for nourishment. Other times you need space for limit setting. In either instance, your spouse should not have to guess why you do not want him around for a while. Communicate clearly so your spouse does not feel. Oh boy. I'm sorry. There's a big thunderstorm behind me coming off the bay. Damn, so I need to be careful.
Be careful.
Yes. Communicate clearly so your spouse does not feel as though he is being punished, but knows he is experiencing the consequences of the out of control behavior, as referenced in Matthew 18:17, 1 Corinthians 5:9 through 13. Emotional distance. If you are in a troubled marriage where your partner has had an affair, for example, you may need emotional space. Wanting to trust again is wise. You need to see if your spouse is truly, wow, that's a word, repentant. I probably lost you.
Repentant.
Repentant? Are you kidding me? I didn't
Repentant.
know
You
that
need
word.
to see if your spouse is truly repentant, and your spouse needs to see if
Wow.
her behavior has a cost. Repentant.
My pastor would kill me. Your spouse may interpret this as punishment, but the Bible teaches that we are to judge a person by their actions, not by her words. James 2:14 through 26. In addition, a hurt heart takes time to heal. You cannot rush back into a position of trust with too much unresolved hurt. That hurt needs to be exposed and communicated. If you are hurting, you need to own that hurt. Time is one of the other boundaries. Each spouse needs time apart from that relationship, not just for limit setting we pointed out above, but for our self nourishment. Proverbs 31. Wife has a life of her own. She is out doing many things. The same is true for her husband. They have their own time for doing what they like and for seeing their own friends. Many couples have trouble with this aspect of marriage. They feel abandoned and their spouse wants more time. In reality, spouses need more time apart, which makes them realize the need to be back together.
Absence makes the
Dena,
heart grow fond.
Exactly.
ain't that the
Exactly.
truth? If I suddenly go
Yes.
and mute myself, it's probably because both a lightning struck behind me. FYI.
Oh yeah, be careful. No,
Um,
you're right. You're absolutely right. And again, it all goes back to if we were taught this stuff before we got married in our marriage counseling, that it is so important that you can't be so, all of your wants and needs and all of that can't be solely put on Mike. Mike can't just give that all to me. It has to be
hey
my
Dena,
responsibility. Yeah.
sorry. Can you finish reading and I'm gonna mute myself.
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead. All right. So the next, we pointed out time, and the next one is other people. Some spouses need the support of others to set boundaries. If they haven't ever stood up for themselves, they need help from friends and the church in learning how. If you are too weak to set and enforce boundaries, get help from supporters outside your marriage. Do not, however, seek support from someone of the opposite sex because that could lead to a messiness affair. Get help from other people within relationships that have built on boundaries, such as counselors or supports groups. And the next group thing is consequences. Communicate consequences clearly and enforce them firmly as you have said you would. Spelling out the consequences in advance and enforcing them gives your spouse a choice about whether or not he or she wants the consequences to happen. Hi, Rockinell. Because people have control over their own behavior, they have they have control over the consequences of that behavior. And then it goes on to talk about, but that doesn't sound submissive. And so it goes on and says, whenever we talk about a wife setting boundaries, someone asks about the biblical idea of submission. What follows is not a full treatise on submission, but some general issues you should keep in mind. First, both husbands and wives are supposed to practice submission, not just their wives. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ, Ephesians 5:21. Submission is always the free choice of one party to another. Wives choose to submit to their husbands, and husbands choose to submit to their wives. It goes both ways,
Right.
right? It's not just the wives.
Absolutely.
And that's
That is
what you're typically said is it's always wife submit, and you
right.
don't hear, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have a lot of men who think that way. I'm the man, I'm the head.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they just totally neglect the other part of that. It says, wives, submit yourselves to your husbands, and it also tells the husbands to submit to Christ, and we're both submitting to Christ. And then
Right.
if we look at Christ and his examples, he said, I came to serve. I came to, when I think of submissiveness, I think about how Christ not was necessarily submissive, but when he
Whew.
said I came to serve, he also put himself in a state of, for instance, I can't remember the Bible, the book that it's in, but it talks about Jesus washing his disciples' feet.
Right.
So in that sense, he's showing you that,
Matthew,
in
He
Matthew.
Matthew
wasn't
or
he
Luke?
wasn't any
Luke or Matthew? I
he
can't
wasn't
remember.
any more important than they were. And back then the washing of the feet was like such a it was like, you're touching somebody's
Right. It
foot.
was
You're doing
right. It was looked at like, wait, you're not like you're a peasant type, not a peasant thing, but it was kind of lowly, I guess you can say.
yeah.
But he was trying to show us that like we can be submissive to each other and
Mhm.
be the, and care for
Yeah,
each other.
that ultimately became what it is to be when you're born again in Christ. That He wipes you clean. He cleans your feet. He makes you righteous before God. He wipes away every sin, everything through your faith and believing in Him. He washes you clean, crimson red.
Yes. Yep.
And you're no longer stained with sin. You no longer have the curse of sin on you. You have been washed clean by the blood of Jesus, and that right there was, I think, maybe one of the metaphors that was being used too by washing the feet. That He will give His life. In a sense, He will be made low. He will be a servant and clean your feet for you. But that it's your responsibility to, I guess, maintain it. But needless to say, I think that's what it kind of really went to as well. I mean, He spoke to things that haven't even happened yet, and it was just amazing that they just coalesce with each other. But we are still on what page again? Just
I believe
move
we're
on.
on
We
the
have
bottom of 167 going on to 168. So 168.
wow, this is a long. How long do we have there, Mr. Eric, the producer? 56 minutes. Wow.
We can get
Am I
We
through
got
reading
to,
too
so that means
much?
about 4 minutes about until the hour mark.
So let's see, but that doesn't sound submissive. Then we have a question of balance, resolution. I can do a part two and go solo as I am live here at the Dali Museum.
Oh, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I mean
fine.
it's up to you
Will
guys.
it cut you off at 1 hour?
No, it goes
Okay,
like
then just keep going.
to.
It keeps
All
you at
right.
2 hours.
Then just keep going. We're on 168. So at the
Uh-oh.
the
Actually,
middle free.
continue for me. It's now raining on me.
Oh, okay, no problem. Freedom isn't one issue that
Good planning.
needs to be examined. Grace is another. In the husband's relationship with his wife, a wife full of grace and unconditional love, is she in the position of no condemnation as the church? Or does the husband fail to wash her of all her guilt? Usually, husbands quote Ephesians 5, turn their wives into slaves and condemn them for not being submitting. If she inquires wrath or condemnation for not submitting, she and her husband do not have a grace-filled Christian marriage. They have a marriage under the law. Often in these situations, the husband is trying to get his wife to do something that either is hurtful or takes away her will. Both of these actions are sins against himself. Husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated his own body, but he feeds and cares for it, just as Christ does the church. Ephesians 5:28 through 29. Given this, the idea of slave like submission is impossible to hold. Christ never takes away our will or asks us to do something hurtful. He never pushes us past our limits. He never uses us as objects. Christ gave himself up for us. He takes care of us as he would his own body. We have never seen a submission problem that didn't have a controlling husband at its roots. When the wife began to set clear boundaries, the lack of Christlikeness in the controlling husband becomes evident because the wife is no longer oh gosh, now I can't read this word. She is no longer putting up with his immature behavior. She is confronting the truth and setting biblical limits on hurtful behavior. Often, when the wife sets boundaries, the husband begins to grow up. So, are you in a safe spot now?
Boy, did I pick the Dolly Museum as the best place to go live.
Are you not in a safe spot?
No, I'm in a safe spot. I'm just on top of a parking garage overlooking the beautiful Dolly Museum now.
Okay. All right.
They were supposed to be open in an hour. Like, they're supposed to be open right now, and I was supposed to be able to go inside, but apparently it's another hour and a half from now. So.
All right. Well, I'll keep
Yeah.
reading then.
Well,
On the next paragraph. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just thinking about something. I don't know if it's I was smiling or something
Oh.
funny, but when you said that, I was thinking about when you said that the woman she holds to her boundaries and the man grows up type of thing.
I know.
It just made me think about oh, you've been a bad well, okay, I'm trying to keep it G rated. I'm not trying to. But
This is rated explicit. This is explicit, so this is adults.
right, no, but it's kind of like you're not. I'm trying to think of it in the right way. Okay. Is it like could she be withholding? Not like a punishment.
Should she not be given?
Not. I wasn't gonna just say that, but is it almost like she's not being intimate with him? She's not giving him any type of what he thinks he deserves as a husband when she does that. It almost not necessarily forcing him to grow up, but just making him aware of where he's wronged her.
I think that kind of goes over to being manipulative.
That's why I was asking.
Aren't they not? Yeah, I think they're more talking about where she sets her boundaries in the relationship. If he's been hurtful, if he's been had an affair, for instance, I don't know, whatever the incident is, that she has to put up a boundary and say, no, I'm not going to put up with that. Not like, I'm not going to put up with that. I'm gonna take this away from you until you're a good boy. That's not being
right. That's what I was thinking when you said that. Like, no, like a little kid. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm taking your game away. Nope. No.
No, I think it has to be part of the situation at hand. If whatever that is going on, that there is a conflict, and that once you get past that, then I think you're being manipulative.
Yeah,
So,
if y'all take the sex away, we gonna straighten up really quick.
oh goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Are you there,
Eh,
Mike?
yeah, I'm here. I'm
You sound like
currently in
it.
an elevator.
I can
Can you
tell.
hear
You
me?
sound like you're in a tunnel.
Do,
Well, let's read
do,
this
do, do.
paragraph. It says every marriage is made up of two ingredients: togetherness and separateness. In good marriages, the partners carry equal loads of both of those. Let's say there are 100 points of togetherness and 100 points of separateness. If good relationship, one partner expresses 50 points to togetherness and 50 points to separateness, and the other does not the same. Okay. They both do things on their own, and that creates mutual longing for each other. And the togetherness creates some need for separateness. So, like you had said earlier, if they do their own thing, then yeah, sooner or later they're gonna crave. They're like, oh, I want to see that person. That I want to see Mike, or I want to spend time with them. Because they miss
I
you.
want to see Mike. I'm
Hmm.
back now, finally. I think I'm in a safe
Okay.
spot.
And that
What?
and you know what? That goes for. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. You're good.
And that
Continue, my good
goes
sir.
further. I mean, I know we're talking about boundaries in a relationship as far as your marriage, but that goes even further when you talk about the church as well, because when Christ compares the church to himself, he calls us his brides, his bridegroom, and he talks about him being the bride. I mean the groom. Somebody help me, Mike. I can't get the word right.
No,
The we're the
yeah,
bridegroom, right?
he's.
He's the bridegroom.
It says
We're the
right here.
brides. We're
If there were
married.
ever a relationship, confused, is marriage by whereby design husband and wife become one flesh. Ephesians 5:31. Boundaries foster separateness. Marriage has to be one of its goals, giving up separateness and becoming instead of two, one. But what a potential state of confusion, especially for someone who does not have clear boundaries to begin with. More marriages fail because of poor boundaries than for any other reason. This chapter will apply these laws. It goes on and talks about marriage mirrors the relationship that Christ has with his bride, the church. Christ has some things
Hi,
that
future
only he
Pastor
can do.
Isaac. Nice to see
The
you. Hi, Jimmy.
church has
Hi,
some
Kim.
things that only it can do. And they have some things they can do
Hey,
together.
Jim.
Only Christ could die. Only the church can represent him on earth in his absence and obey his commands. And together, they work on many things, such as saving the lost. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, my brother from another mother.
Oh no, that's good. No, that's good. I mean, if we look at it that way, if we look at it as far as kingdom business, we're looking at us husbands being submissive to Christ. Christ is the head of the church. He's the groom. We're the bride, and he's being submissive and following his father's orders. And they were under him. It's kind of like a chain of command. But if you want to,
Right.
men, if you want to know how to be a great husband, look at Christ. Look at Christ and how he treats us, and then look at how he's submissive to his father. But as far
What
as
is
that
Christ?
goes, huh?
Long suffering. He's long suffering. He's
Right. So what are some? That's
it's
what I'm saying. Like we could look at his examples because what are some boundaries that Christ has set? What are some boundaries God has set, and things He does not expect that He has set that we know that we're not supposed to cross this line or go past it. So we look at we can look at the boundaries because there are boundaries that God has set
oh yeah.
for us, and for So I know that can be a whole nother thing, but
No,
but
no. You know
but
what we're
when
gonna do real quick? Um, I want you to finish your thought. After that, we're gonna take like a minute break, something like that, and then we'll return. But go ahead and finish that thought, brother.
yeah, play one of those awesome songs you be playing. I like that. But
Oh, come on.
yeah, no, they do. There's also some cool songs. But it just makes me think about when you talk about the church, and I can't remember where it's at, but I think it's in the New Testament later on in the books where it talks about how us as just the church and how we have relationships with each other,
The
and
body of
how
Christ.
right in the body, and how if if certain members, they're not sticking to these boundaries that are set for us, or that
Hebrews.
right, so how we are to not necessarily disown this person, but to let them,
Right.
but we step away and let them, like Jana Joe was saying, let them miss us. Because if they did have we had that relationship, and I let you
Right.
know this is not cool. We can't, just like, there's plenty of examples in there. This man was messing with his mother-in-law, and there's so many things going on in all these other churches, and he gives us guidelines as to, if these people are doing this, I don't like these things in the church. So if this is going on, you're gonna have to let them know. Take this person with you, take them. If they still don't want to listen, then you say, hey, you know what, we're gonna have to distance ourselves from you, and you let them decide. I had it good over, let them decide what they're gonna do after that. Let them.
Exactly.
So I need, I had it good over here. Oh, let me go back. So it goes exactly.
No, yeah, it's
No.
good. I mean,
Nah,
you're right.
Where have you been
know.
all this boundary time?
You go once, you talk to them. If they don't listen, then you take somebody else with you. You talk to them. If they don't listen, then they know the boundaries are set. They know what the consequences are, and exactly,
Yeah.
did they have it good, or what are they going to do? So yeah, you're right on.
Yeah, Hebrews 10 talks about do not neglect the gathering of yourselves.
25,
do
yeah.
not neglect. Yeah, do not neglect the assembly of yourselves, and that's one of the key things too. But also to know your boundaries. Eric, do you have any thoughts or anything you would like to, before we take our minute break? I don't know how the jingle works.
Well, this has definitely been like a good show, of course. And I guess when this episode wraps up, on our next show, we will be discussing chapter 10.
Yes.
That's right. And what's chapter 10, Eric?
I am Boundaries in Your Children is the title of that chapter on page 169.
Oh, wow. Well,
Be a good one.
I need.
Well, you are. Can we count him in on the panel for next week? Do we have a unanimous consent?
What are you talking about? Count who in?
For the truth, the good, the bad.
Oh,
the ugly truth.
Yay! Oh my God, it's unanimous.
Yay!
You have to read the chapter. That's your homework.
Yeah. Okay.
I will send you the material if you need it.
No, it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it, next week's too. This whole book has been really great.
We are 1 hour and 10 minutes into the show. We're going to take a minute. We're going to listen to the song. After the song, we will then restart. And Dena, remind me what page we left off on.
We are on 170, right in the middle where it says balance.
Balance. All righty then. 170 middle balance. Here we go. This song is called Imaginations by Futures.
We were blinded, we were broken, lost without a guide. You came in to rescue, you made us worthy, gave purpose to our lives. We can hear your heart now, we can feel it beating. God of the nations. Imaginations turning to
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Imaginations by Futures. F-U-R-T-E-R-S. Great song. All right, we're going to continue on page 170 with balance. This is titled what? A question of balance. Boundary conflicts, boundaries, and your spouse.
Hi, David. Welcome.
It's something that God has wired into every system. Every system tries to find balance in any way it can. And many dimensions need to be balanced in a marriage: power, strength, togetherness, sex, and so on. Problems come when I don't watch for puddles. Every system tries to find balance in any way it can, and many dimensions need to be balanced in a marriage: power, strength, togetherness, sex, and so on. Problems come instead of trading places in these arenas. One spouse is always powerful and the other powerless. One spouse is always strong and the other weak. One spouse always wants togetherness and the other wants separateness. One spouse always wants sex and the other doesn't. In each case, the couple has struck a balance, but it is not a mutual balance. Boundaries help create mutual balance instead of split balance. They help couples keep each other accountable. If someone does not have boundaries and begins to do another's work for them, such as creating all the togetherness in the relationship, that person is on the road to codependency or worse. The other partner will have to live out the opposite side of the split. Boundaries keep partners accountable through consequences and force the balance to become mutual. The preacher in Ecclesiastes says there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. That's in Ecclesiastes 3:1. There are balanced polarities in life and relationship. When you find yourself in an equal relationship, you may lack boundaries. Setting boundaries may correct the imbalance. For example, when Paul sets boundaries on Meredith's demands, he forces her to become more independent. This one is titled Resolution: Boundaries in Your Spouse. It is often easy to see problems, but difficult to make the hard choices and risk that results in change. Let's look at the steps towards personal change in a marital relationship. Number 1, inventory the symptom. First, you need to recognize the problem and agree to take action to solve it. You will not resolve the problem by wishing. You need to own the problem, whether it be sex, discipline of the children, lack of togetherness, or unfair spending of money. Number 2, identify the specific boundary problem. One step beyond identifying the symptom is putting your finger on the specific boundary issue. For instance, the symptom may be one person does not want sex. Oh, the thunder just roared. The boundary problem may be that this person does not. Oopsie daisy. Okay, I still got you guys. For instance, the symptom may be that one person does not want sex. The boundary problem may be that this person does not say no often enough in other areas of the relationship, so that this is one place that she has some power, or she may feel as if she does not have enough control in the sexual arena. She may feel powerless. She may feel that her choices are not honored. Number 3, find the origins of the conflict. This is probably not the first relationship in which this boundary issue has arisen. You probably learned to relate this way in a significant relationship in the family in which you grew up. Certain fears that were developed in that relationship are still operative. Are still operating. You need to name these original issues. You may need to stop confusing your parent with your spouse. No other relationship repeats parental conflicts more often than the marriage relationship. Let me say that one again. Oops. The bay wind just blew my page. You need to name these original issues. You may need to stop confusing your parent with your spouse. No other relationship repeats parental conflicts more often than marriage relationship.
The sins of the
Number
father were
4.
passed down, right? Is that kind of,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes and no, but yes. That is a generational curse, or it could be something that the firstborn has to break or
Hmm.
change in order to redirect the course of that family. To be honest. Number 4, take in the good. This step involves establishing a support system. Remember, boundaries are not built in a vacuum. We need bonding and support before we build boundaries. The fear of abandonment keeps many people from setting boundaries in the first place. For this reason, establish a support system that will encourage boundary setting in your marriage. This may be a codependency group, El Elyon, Al Anon. I thought it was El Elyon. That means the Most High God. A therapist, a marriage counselor, or a pastor. Do not set boundaries alone. Let me say that again. Do not set your boundaries alone. You have not set boundaries because you are afraid. The only way out of this is through support. And if one can overpower him who is alone, two can resist him. Whoa. And if one can overpower him who is alone, who can resist him? A cord of 3 strands is not quickly torn apart. That's Ecclesiastes 4:12. Boundaries are like muscles. They need to be built up in a safe support system, allowed to grow. If you try to shoulder too much weight too quickly, your muscles may be torn or pulled. Hey, Dena, I need you to finish until I get the sound quiet behind me.
Okay, where were you? You were in practice?
Number 5, yeah.
5 practice? Okay, practice. New boundaries are new boundaries and safe relationships in which people love you unconditionally. Tell a good friend no when you can't do lunch, or let her know when your opinion differs from her, or give something to her without expecting anything in return. As you practice setting limits with safe people, you will begin to grow in the ability to set limits in your marriage. Number 6 is say no to the bad. Put limits on the bad in your marriage. Stand up to the abuse. Say no to unreasonable demands. Remember the parable of talents. There was no growth without risk and facing up to fear. Being successful is not as important as stepping out and trying. Number 7 is forgive. To not forgive is lack of boundaries. Unforgiving people allows the other people to control you. Setting people setting people who have Setting people who have hurt you free from all old debt is to stop wanting something from them. It sets you free as well. Forgiving can lead to proactive behavior in the present instead of passive wishes from the past. Are you back with us, Mike?
Hallelujah. That was number 8, correct? Become proactive.
That was number 7. You're on number 8.
Number
now.
7.
Be proactive. Becoming proactive.
Number 8. Become proactive.
Yes.
Number 8. Instead of allowing someone else to be in control, figure out what you want to do. Set your course and stick to it. Decide what your limits are, what you will allow yourself to be a party to, what you will no longer tolerate, what consequences you will set. Define yourself proactively, and you will be ready to maintain your boundaries when the time comes. Number 9, learn to love in freedom and responsibility. Remember the goal of boundaries. The goal of boundaries. Love coming out of freedom. This is the true self-denial of the New Testament. When you are in control of yourself, you can give and sacrifice for loved ones in a helpful way instead of giving into destructive behavior and self-centeredness. This kind of freedom allows one to give in a way that leads to fruit. Remember, no greater love has anyone than to lay down his life for his friends. This is to live up to the law of Christ, to serve one another. But this must be done out of freedom, not boundaryless compliance. Setting and receiving firm boundaries with your spouse can lead to a much greater intimacy. But you not only need to address boundaries with your spouse, you need to address boundaries with your children. And it's never too late to start. Great.
Can I butt in?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was the end of chapter
Oh
9.
yeah. Yeah. Y'all said something, and it just I think we were kind of hit on it earlier. Setting boundaries for you said something about not forcing. You set these boundaries with consequences if those boundaries are broken, or you those boundaries are broken
Yeah, with
through or
the
whatever.
balance, right?
Now, not forcing them. I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
No,
I lost my train. I lost my train of thought.
The consequences.
Right, but okay. Now you said not forcing. So I'm not forcing. Again, we're not forced. It's not that we're forcing. Once I lay out the consequences and I follow through and enforce them, I'm not forcing the person to
No,
come back. It's like they have to make. They have to. It's like they
have
have
a
to.
choice.
They have a choice, but what I'm getting towards is if they already have that knowledge of Christ, or they're following the statutes and the commandments of Christ, it's not gonna really be a hard decision, if that makes sense. I think I
It
think
depends
that
on their walk with
okay,
Christ.
okay, that's where I'm getting at now.
Yeah.
We're talking about in a relationship. Okay, do you set? Okay, I'm assuming you set boundaries before you even come into a relationship. What you're expecting from
You should.
a certain
Right, you
partner.
should.
Now,
Yeah.
okay. Now, if you get into the
He's on
relationship and they
fire.
have
Watch out, guys.
no, and they have a different set of boundaries. Now, who now I guess that's kind of where the conflict might come in, because if I'm thinking about this right, it's
Paint the
almost
picture.
like your boundaries are, we're kind of, it's like our boundaries are not allowing us to be
We
who
get
we want
boundary
to be for
conflicts.
the other person, huh?
Boundary conflicts with each other, right?
Right. And Saul said, like, compromise. Okay, I guess what I'm asking is, do we ever compromise our boundaries for our significant other or spouse, or do we
Yes.
even oh, okay,
Listen, here it
okay.
is, the law of power. Before your boundaries, right? Now, this is her. Stop yelling at me. You must be nicer. Now, this is after your boundaries. You can continue to yell if you choose to, but I will choose not to be in your presence when you act that way. So it's like they're instead of throwing out absolutes or demands, they're giving them the consequence, the what boundary they're violating, and why, and that let's see, in your presence when you act that way,
Yeah, but that's
and
not what
you're
I heard the
pointing out
good
their
saying.
actions.
I thought I heard you saying the good. I thought I heard you saying, like, is there ever a moment in time that, okay, I'm in a marriage. I have my boundaries. My partner has their boundaries. And is there ever a time that I'm going to say, okay, you can step over these boundaries of mine this time. I'll let you. Do we ever
Okay.
let each other? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, that also. I kind of had like three different questions. I was thinking
Oh,
because I had three different things in my head: compromise, consistency. I think once we set boundaries, I think what could lead to somewhat of a failure is if we. I guess I'm asking that question to you. Do you see it as a bad thing or a thing to not even allow yourself to do to if you're inconsistent in any of your boundaries? Do you think that might be a bad thing? And why I say that is because with the compromise, when is it a good time to compromise? And if I do compromise, is that me being inconsistent, or or is it something else?
I think it could
If
be confusing. To me, it could be confusing. But like for instance, my ex-husband was extremely controlling. Those were his boundaries, and were his boundaries right? Maybe not. In this book, from what I read, it shouldn't have been. We should have each. There should be compromise. There should be. He shouldn't be over control of me. So that maybe his boundaries aren't so correct. Am I, Mike? Do you get where
No,
I'm
I
saying?
got you, and that's why I was saying, and that's kind of why I was leading back to everything y'all pretty much been saying. I'm just being not
Is
devil,
the
not,
is the
not
lady
devil's advocate. I,
is the wife right
Yes.
next to you? Is the wife?
me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not married. No, 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 no.
No, you're not married.
No, I'm
You're
sitting
talking
advocate.
No,
circles almost.
Oh, no, no,
I
no.
get what
I'm
you're
sorry.
saying.
I'm sorry. I've been doing it for the past few days because I'm trying to I got so much going on in my head. I'm trying to just,
Green
line
sting
them
on the
up
eyeball.
and get and work them all out. But
Somebody got stung by a
but it
bee.
just kind of leads back, if our thoughts and everything line up with Christ, I don't think our boundaries are going to ever conflict in a sense.
And it
That's just my thought.
Right.
No, you're
But
right. And
your
I think it should be
feelings.
something, it should actually be taught. We should be taught these things prior to marriage, and then maybe there wouldn't be as many conflicts in it. If we learned these things, learned about boundaries and compromise and loving each other as Christ loved each other, I think it would help
Right.
a lot more.
Like they got the law of sowing and reaping. Many times one spouse may be out of control and may not suffer the consequences of this behavior. The husband yells at his wife and tries to be more loving. In effect, the evil yelling produces good things, more loving for him. Or a wife overspends her husband and pays the consequences. He gets his second job to cover the amount of the bills. There's natural consequences, and they're needed to resolve these problems. Like the wife needs to tell her overly critical husband that if he continues to berate her, she will go into another room and spend $1,000 until he can discuss the problem rationally. It's just like
That's the Quran teaching right there. That's Quran teaching. Put your lay hands on your wife. That's Quran teaching there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No. I didn't say lay hands.
yeah.
Yes.
No, it is.
Finally.
It's in there,
Oh, okay. No, I believe you, but
which is not
I
right.
think it's fascinating that these. No, it's not right at all. No way. The law of exposure, the law of power, the law of evaluation. I mean, there's so many things that we just really need to work on in our marriages if it's still intact. I'm just saying, maybe for the future, when I'm in another marriage, God willing, and the creek don't rise, I'll know better. I'll know how to be a better husband.
Yeah, you'll know how to be. You should know what your boundaries are,
Like
and
this was her second marriage, and this is my first, so I'm like a newbie to this, and she's like a pro kind of thing. It's things I needed to learn apparently, but I just not quick enough.
No, but the
Needless to
next
say.
time you'll be able to speak them. It says to be you should be we should be able to tell the other person that we want to have a relationship with. We should be able to say, hey, by the way, this is what I stand for. These are my boundaries. And in the
And
beginning, yeah,
we'll have the book.
yeah.
You're a dork, Michael. Anyways, yeah. Sorry, I'm overlooking an airport, Albert Wooded Airport, here in downtown St. Petersburg.
Yeah, it's a lot
I
of
know my
air. We
boundaries.
can hear the wind.
I know my boundaries in which I
Yes.
do not cross over through the where the planes are landing. So I will
Oh,
mind
well,
my boundaries.
Yeah, that'd be
I can
fun
see
if you
that.
did that. That'll be real fun.
Get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
guys, I
I'm
have
like
got to
overlooking.
go.
Dena Joe, you are a trooper. Thank you
Yay, Dana Joe.
for
Oh, thanks, guys.
Dena Joe. Thank you
I
guys. We'll go ahead
appreciate
and
you
wrap it up.
guys so much.
Any last statements,
Oh.
comments,
Yes, really quickly.
No,
berates?
it was great to have you here at the Good.
Oh, thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me. Yes, please send me the info. I will start going through that book. I'll start on chapter 10. Where did y'all leave off at the end of chapter 9, or is it chapter 10 next time?
No, we're
chapter
chapter
10 is
10, which
boundaries
is
with children, and you'll probably have it all highlighted like we normally do.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to go through there.
that will be
Ladies.
Tuesday at 5 p.m. Tuesday, Michael,
4
at 5 p.m. Eastern,
4 p.m.
3 p.m.
Central
Mountain
Standard
Time,
Time.
and
3
4
p.m.
p.m.
Mountain
Central
Time.
Standard.
2 Pacific for our friends on the West
There you
Coast.
go, all the time.
There you
Meowton time, Dena. It's Meowton
Meowton.
time.
Oh,
Okay?
Meowton time. Sorry.
Eric, any plugs before we end the show? And
Well-
Good, you are the man.
Well, coming up on Podbean Live this evening, be on lookout for the Beans and Weenie show and the Slightly Serious show. And then tomorrow, I'll be on lookout, for Ralph and Freedom Warrior and the Old Man's podcast with Dean, Joe, and Eric tomorrow morning, and also be on lookout should Jeremy do impromptu episodes of Cummings' is Culture, and should John do the John DeVito show, and also be on lookout for more great shows like Talk Hard with Q Bella and Tuddles, as well as the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Truths podcast, and also be on lookout for a few more friends. The Swap Doesn't Lie and Crazy Kane's Crosstalk Asylum, and Dude Sean and Trice Talk, and hopefully very soon we'll see more Podbean MIA friends coming back, like the Raw Report and Lyrical Laxatives, and be on lookout very soon for a new season of the Almost Everything podcast with Lewis and Tim, and that should be very interesting, and definitely be on lookout for Milk Dog 2020 and a host of other great friends. And next week on the Slightly Serious show, we might be in for a treat as our own Jess Duck and Honeybee might be doing a trivia one-on-one challenge.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you're going to finally hear Jess call into a Podbean show again, I would imagine.
Oh, yay.
I bet you, Dena Joe, and the Old Man, and J Baby, and a couple other friends, the Rockin' Now have got to definitely be there for that.
Oh, I would love to hear it.
Ladies
But
and
it'll be in
gentlemen,
the final
thank you
half
for
hour.
tuning in. Eric, you are the most amazing producer Podbeam could ever
He's
have.
the man.
You're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Dena Joe, I love you.
And she's the woman.
You're awesome. And the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly truth. Thank you for coming in and giving your
And I'm just a
very
lowly servant.
sound advice.
You know what? And you know what? Thank you for having me. I just
God
want to
bless you
throw
guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can y'all hear me?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, just real quick. Speaking about my podcast, tune in this Sunday on the Good, and Bad, and Ugly Truth. Well, we will have Tampa Bay Mike in there. We're going to be talking about faith over vaccines. Let's talk about where our faith in God comes in.
That should be a good show.
So y'all tune in at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Mike's going to be there. Thumbs up, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Mike's going to be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to have a really good discussion. Mike. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to have a really good discussion on that. It's been something that's been going on, so we're going to talk about that. And check us out.
And you definitely encourage
Sounds great.
audience participation to anybody who tunes in, and they might want to call and participate.
All of that good stuff. I want to hear everybody.
And ladies and gentlemen,
And
this
don't
has
forget-
been Boundaries, episode 9. This has been
And
the
don't
extended
forget-
version, little hour and 38 minutes. Go ahead, Eric.
Don't forget Captain Jimmy's podcast, the Pirate Radio podcast. Don't forget the It's Doomsday podcast as well when they come back and sucker
Captain
into
Jimmy.
Alpha this evening.
That's right. Those are good
if they're
shows.
doing a show tonight. All right, but we'll catch you later. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Boundaries, episode 9. Next week, episode 10, Boundaries and Your Children. As always, I will end with a song. God bless you, Dena, Joe, Eric, and the good, bad, the ugly truth. Here we go.
Good talking
This
to you.
one's called
Bye, guys.
Constellations. Same group.
Clouds of dust beneath your feet. At my peak, there you just begin. Limitless you are, in universe and depths, unending splendor. You display for me. Constellations will dance for your gaze. In the blanket of night, you illuminate, and I stand amazed by the wonder of your name. Mountains shiver at your name. Creation.
We were blinded, we were broken, lost without a guide. You came and rescued, you made us worthy, gave purpose to our lives. We can hear your heart now, we can feel it beating. God of the nations. Oh, we will pray, we will go. Imaginations turning to Jesus.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Boundaries, episode 10. Next week, 5 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m.
Love you
Central.
and God bless. See you next time.